Murat Gassivev will take on Krzysztof Wlodarczyk in the quarterfinal of the World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight version of this boxing tournament. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the fighters, let me just give you a quick rundown on their stats. Murat Gassivev is the current, I believe, IBF Cruiserweight world title holder. He is 23 years of age, so very young. He stands 6'3" tall. He's had 25 fights with a record of, he's had 24 fights. There's a little conflict here on the BoxRec record. The bouts, it says 25, but in the win-loss column, it says he's only had 24 fights. So I'm not sure why there's a discrepancy there. But anyway, for the purposes of this video, we'll say it's 24 fights, 24 wins, no losses, no draws, 17 KOs. If you haven't seen Murat Gassivev fight, he's a come forward pressure fighter. He's got a very good left hook. He's heavy-handed. He's a bit raw though. Unlike a lot of the Russian fighters, if I forgot to mention, he is from Russia. Unlike a lot of the Russian fighters, he didn't have an extensive amateur background. He had very few, if any, amateur fights. So that rawness, that lack of technique does show in Murat Gassivev, particularly in his footwork. I haven't been impressed by Murat Gassivev's footwork at all. Even though he beat Denis Lebedev in his last fight in a good performance, his footwork let him down. If he'd improved if his footwork had been better, he probably could have got Lebedev out of there. But he is clearly a talented puncher, hits very hard, has got some highlight reel knockouts on his record. His best win, obviously, was his last fight against Denis Lebedev, where he won a 12-round split decision. Lebedev still has some version of the world title, which he did not put on the line against Gassivev. I think he only put the IBF version of his title on the line, which he lost to Gassivev. But other than the Lebedev fight, Gassivev hasn't fought particularly high-level opposition. He's fought a few other prospects along the way and some fringe contenders and journeymen. But because of the fact that he didn't have much of an amateur career, I guess they've been a little careful in terms of who they've been picking for him to fight. So I see him as a dangerous guy, a strong guy, a big puncher, but vulnerable, particularly against the more technical fighters out there. Now he's going up against Krzysztof I always struggle pronouncing Wlodarczyk's surname, so bear with me. Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. He's a Polish fighter. He's a veteran of the Cruiserweight division. He's been around for a very long time. He's 35 years old. He stands 6'1" tall. He has a total of 57 fights, 53 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 37 of those wins coming by knockout. He has never been stopped. He's a very, very tough man. Again, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Some of the people that he fought Grigory Drozd, or Drozd, I always mispronounce his name too, who was the former world champion at Cruiserweight. He fought Drozd for the WBC Cruiserweight title back in 2014, which he lost by unanimous decision. So that's a high-level fight he was in there. He fought Valery Brudov, who's a decent level fighter. Managed to stop him. I believe Tony Bellew fought Brudov, didn't he? Stopped him in 2 rounds. Not Bellew, Wlodarczyk. Wlodarczyk stopped him in 2 rounds. He also fought Danny Green. He managed to beat Danny Green. So that's a decent level win. He fought Rakhim Chakiev. Rakhim Chakiev is the guy who looks like Zangief, who's very muscled and very athletically gifted, fast hands, explosive, etc., but has no stamina. You might remember Chakiev getting knocked out by Afolabi a while ago. So yeah, he's got a win over Chakiev. Just scrolling through some other names on his record. He fought Fragamini. You might remember back in the days, Fragamini fought David Haye. Well, Wlodarczyk has a draw with Fragamini. That was back in 2009. He fought Steve Cunningham a few times. Another big name. So yeah, Wlodarczyk has been around a very long time, very experienced, very tough. This is an interesting fight, to be honest with you. Wlodarczyk maybe has seen better days, but he's technically good. He's tough. He can punch a little bit. And the technical errors that Murat Gassivev has, the mistakes that he makes, might get picked up on by somebody like Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. Then again, you could have said the same for Denis Lebedev. Denis Lebedev is a very technically good fighter, and he did exploit some of the weaknesses of Murat Gassivev, but Gassivev's strength and punching power was too much for Denis Lebedev in the end. And you have to say Denis Lebedev is better than Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. Wlodarczyk is a orthodox fighter as well, whereas Lebedev is a southpaw. So will it be better for Gassivev fighting a orthodox fighter rather than a southpaw? I would say it probably will be, particularly because Gassivev loves that big left hand, that left hook. And orthodox fighters are usually more open to the left hook than southpaws. Not always, but usually. So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting fight. We'll see what Wlodarczyk can do with his experience and his technical ability. Again, the guy's had a hell of a lot of fights, 57 fights, and I'm sure an extensive amateur background compared to Gassivev, who's only had 24 or 25 fights, depending on what the actual real figure is, and very few amateur fights. So it's going to be interesting. Let me know what you think of this matchup. How do you see it going? How do you see it playing out? Who do you think is going to win? Drop it all in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.